Regana Tosh is known to be associated with the Markalian smuggling operation. Kira thinks Quark has a lot in common with a Raconian swamp rat. And Sisko tells Worf to stay in his lane. And then he makes a pendulum. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule of Cirroc, Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name's Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 4, Hippocratic Oath, directed by René Auberjonois. Very cool.
Okay.
Written by Lisa Klink and story by Nicholas Correa and Lisa Klink. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing well.
Pretty cool that Odo directed this. I only saw that afterwards, so I didn't really watch for it. But it was cool that he's like, ooh, Odo gets the last laugh. I want to direct this one.
Yeah, this was a good episode. We get a little bit of the jem'hadar now. We're starting to getting into the meat of the Dominion and how they function, and this drug, this Ketracel White, which is that white girl, that white powder, or that white stuff that they like.
You got the white stuff.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that René directed this episode.
So this was I don't know. This was the first time. I mean, like, I got to be honest with you, Cirroc. When I watched this episode and we saw Worf fussing around and getting rejected by Sisko and getting rejected by Odo, my first thought was, same old sorry Worf. Like what Shaquille O'Neal said about the Warriors when the Warriors were trying to get better, and the interviewers were like, what do you think about the Warriors? And, Lakers had just whipped them, and he's like, SOSW, same old sorry Warriors. Well, this time it's SOSW, because in Next Generation, there's like a huge compilation of the times that Worf recommends something and he gets shot down. He's always like, Captain, recommend we... No, Worf. Or he says, Captain, we must fire... Worf, I'm warning you, damn it. Or, Worf, quiet. But Captain, we should know. So this was just the same old thing on Deep Space Nine. He's like, I do not think that... And then nobody wants to hear it. Anyway, this was your first taste of it.
Yeah, he was. He had his microscope up Odo's rear end in this episode, and Odo was like, "Dude, what's your problem, man? You just got here, and you're over here barking orders at me, and reporting me to the boss every 5 minutes." Captain, Odo is late for work. I just thought that was.
I noticed he was 3.5 minutes late, Captain. I did not want to pry, but.
Yeah. I thought that Worf was trying to. He's doing a bad job at trying to make friends on DS9 at this point. But he's also a real by the books guy, and he's also concerned about the safety of Quarks, and of the station itself. But I thought it was interesting when Sisko says basically towards the end, he's like, "Look, Quark has his own set of rules, okay? So just learn to live with him, and we've got our eye on him. We're watching what he does, but we let him get away with certain things because he helps facilitate, the functioning of this station." So they kind of have a little separate set of rules for Quark, which is what we've always known, but now Worf is learning for himself too, right?
Right. It was also, Sisko definitely did tell him to stay in his lane. He's like, look, Odo is the chief of security. You are strategic operations. Need I spell it out for you? He should have been like, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but a couple of our most important officers are stuck in the Gamma Quadrant. Would you consider that to be a strategic operation for you to maybe go, I don't know, find out what's going on? I don't know. Maybe you should remove yourself from Odo's gooey rear end and go, do your job right quick.
Yeah, that would be a nice suggestion. But this episode is, they call it the Hippocratic Oath, and that's because doctors are sworn to take this oath, which is supposed to supersede any decision making that they do, right? So this is the first rule, is
Right.
basically to save life, right?
Hmm.
And you see that Dr. Bashir is conflicted with that oath in this episode, because he has to choose whether to save the lives of essentially the mortal enemies of the Federation at this point. And um, I thought that's a good concept for them to explore.
For sure.
So I do like that they pick these kinds of themes, and that's, to me, another thing that separates DS9 from all the other shows that we've been watching so far, is that they pick these kinds of themes that are rooted in these principles that we all kind of understand and adhere to. And I like the way they challenge those themes in specific circumstances on DS9, and that's exactly what they continue to do in this episode as well.
Mm. Yeah, I was just thinking that we have Ferengi and Quark have the rules of acquisition. We made up the rules of obfuscation for Garrick. Maybe Bashir should have the rules of preservation, right? The rules of preservation, sir.
So, yeah, they could have the rules of preservation, and I think
He's
that,
got a few.
yeah, I think Bashir is taking. I really like his maturity in this episode. I like the way he's kind of really grown into himself as the doctor on the show. He's owning that role and that responsibility, and we've seen him grow from being this kind of unsure person who's figuring out what he wants to do on the station, to now owning the role of being in charge of people's lives on this show. So I like the approach that Bashir has taken, and he's willing to even gamble his friendship with O'Brien in this, which is another thing that they delved deep into, and I enjoyed as well.
Mm. Yeah, it was a good episode for Bashir. It was really one of his first really good episodes, because not only is he being a doctor following the Hippocratic Oath, but he also has to kind of take charge at certain points. He does, even though he's talking to his friend. When his friend says, and that's the end of it, he basically says, no, no, no. You might be alpha when we're hanging out, but I'm in charge technically and morally right now. So we're going to go ahead and do things my way. I was surprised, though, and this is definitely not a usual Star Trek kind of thing, but that O'Brien did not obey him. He was like, okay, sure, I'll do it. And then he totally didn't. He betrayed him as a friend and as an officer. And I know we're jumping around here, but I did find it a little strange that when he shot the jem'hadar guy at the end there, Bashir just goes, okay, I'll go with you. He was just like, all right, you win, whatever, moving on. But yeah, it was definitely a different trope for O'Brien to just fully betray him.
Yeah, and what we always learn in watching these episodes is the complexity of situations. Nothing is as clear cut as just white and black. There's all the shade of gray, and that's where DS9 is best at. They're best at delving into the shades of gray and deciphering, which way, what is really right and what is really wrong, and if you reverse the shoes, does it still hold true? And so I think that's one of the things that they do so well in this series, and this show is just another example of it.
Yeah, it and it is something, by the way. I don't know if you remember this or did this on purpose, but they did mention shades of gray. Sisko even said Quark definitely operates in the gray areas, like, to put it mildly. But
Right.
yeah, it's true, and that's what puts Deep Space Nine different than the others, is that with Star Trek, you usually know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. Even when there's like an unsure decision to be made, about morality, there isn't necessarily an unsure decision to be made about who's the good guy and who's the bad guy necessarily. Whereas Deep Space Nine, everybody is on a spectrum. Nobody is fully good and nobody's fully bad. Everybody's on a spectrum, which is good because that's how life is. And it also makes for more nuanced stories and more realistic stories. I don't know why I think about this right now, but what did you think of Bashir's outdoor office? Like, that was the first thing I thought when he's like, here's where you'll be working. It's kind of like he just got hired on a new day. He's like, here's your outdoor office. Have a seat. I mean, he had a table. It was nice. He had some little indoor plants hanging off the side. It's pretty cute. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't give it much thought, but I did
I'm shocked.
But I did look at some of the sets and some of the, the background. I did go into that a little bit, and what I did see is I actually wrote it down. It was kind of a dark, and I know they do that in some cases to hide things so that you can't see everything.
Yeah.
But there were moments when I was looking and I wanted to see more detail, and it was kind of really a little dark for me to actually see it with clarity. So I would have liked to have seen more lighting actually in this particular episode.
Yeah, they did have interesting lighting choices too. Like, you see the guy behind me, it was kind of striped. Like, there are a lot of like blinds and things like that, or whatever, crates, whatever makes this kind of lighting. I wonder what the decision, the impetus for that kind of decision was, but that it was definitely noticeable that there was a lot of light and dark, just made it interesting. I don't know if that's a director's choice or a DP's choice, but there was certainly something interesting there. We also had a NAM for Keiko. Keiko got a NAM. I don't think they mentioned Molly too, but so for everybody at home, a NAM is a non-appearance mention, which means everybody that gets mentioned without actually being in the episode, because that kind of expands on their character. People think about their character as just, the episodes we see them in, but they're talking about the character when they're not there too. And that just adds to the depth of that character. And so that gives her her 8th NAM of the season, which ties her at the top now with Rom with 8, and Jake and Nog each have 7. But what did you think of that little squabble that O'Brien was telling Bashir about with Keiko and making a workbench in their bedroom?
Yeah, as soon as you said workbench in the bedroom, I was like, oh, here in the doghouse, man. You can't bring your work into the bedroom.
But if she's not home, I feel like you could say, look, obviously it shows that I'm faithful to you, because nobody's going to try to bring a girl home when there's a workbench there. She should be like, oh, so it's messy and dirty and full of hammers and stuff. I like that. I'm glad it's like that when I'm gone.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but I mean,
probably not.
No, what's wrong with the living room? Use the den or something, but don't do it in the bedroom. I don't want grease on my pillow on my side of the bed. No, I thought that was a little bit overboard, and it's funny because it's kind of what guys do, guy things, and sometimes those things are a little bit ridiculous. Usually your man cave goes in the garage or in the basement somewhere. But
wait. You're trying to say that the things that guys do is ridiculous?
No, I'm just saying that sometimes things guys
oftentimes
do.
Yeah.
Yes. Not all the things, but sometimes.
Yeah.
And we know when we're relegated to our garage space, and that's our domain. And so I thought it was a little bit ridiculous that he would want to make his man cave in the bedroom. Like, that's not exactly the place to do it. But I thought the interchange between them, the exchange between them, was really good. I like the way O'Brien kind of was, trying to describe his ideal woman would be more like a man, and then Bashir calls him out on it. So, did you say you'd be happy if she was a man?
You wish you were dating a man?
exactly.
I hate you, Julian.
No, his answer was, I wish I was on this trip. I wish I was on this trip with someone else. That's what I wish.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. I bet you
And I
though,
got that one.
I will say that I'll bet if that script were written today, 25 years later, it would be handled a little more differently. Um, because what was okay back then about kind of like, making a slightly, gay-ish joke or feminine joke was kind of the punchline. Nowadays, that's not a punchline anymore. People have a better understanding of that, and it has to be more nuanced. Like, it's okay to make jokes about certain things, but that can't be the entire punchline because that is not a punchline. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So when I saw that, I was like thinking, how would they handle that differently now? In other words, how would they handle it better? And I'm not sure if there is a way. They might just, I mean, I'm sure they could come up with a way. They're pretty creative.
yeah. They could probably. Obviously, this show's written in the '90s, and it was a totally different time as far as what society was willing to accept and what was appropriate. So
Yeah,
those things have changed over time. But I would apply it to who O'Brien is as a character, and to me, it actually really wouldn't require much change if you consider the fact that O'Brien is this kind of a macho man type of guy and just who he is as a person. So I don't think it's too far fetched to kind of tease him about,
it's a good
oh, do
point.
you wish you wish she was a man?
Is
I
that
don't see it.
it's being true to the character of
It's
O'Brien.
being
That's a
true to
good
the
point.
character. I don't look at it as a some kind of way to take an assault on homosexuality or
Mm.
anything. I didn't view it that way.
Right. It's kind of like on, a lot of shows, they have the character like that, like say Peter Griffin in Family Guy. He'll say any old stupid thing. But usually what they do is they surround him with people saying, hey, that's not right, or that's stupid, or something like that. So maybe the slight difference they would do is just changing Bashir's reaction to it. Like, something there. But you're right that is kind of true to the character. He is a very like, I just want to play with my tools, and I just drink my whiskey, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and he often gets he has issues with his communication. Sometimes when he says things, it comes out wrong, and
Definitely
that's
did this
kind of
time.
he definitely did this time. And so I just think as far as the character is concerned, it's consistent with who he is as a character, and I don't see it as an attack. Maybe there would be a slight edge taken off of Bashir's response, and maybe he would have phrased it a little bit differently, maybe different emphasis on certain words. But I don't think you would drastically say, "No, we can't do the scene.
Yeah,
It's
you're
too
right.
much."
Especially because the joke is mostly that, kind of like when we say that there's a clear bromance going on there. He's basically
Right.
saying, God, I wish my wife was more like you. And Bashir's like, really? Yeah. Pretty obvious you feel that way anyway, O'Brien. You don't have to act all shy about it.
Yeah, I think he said it before almost. I think this is not the first time he said that he wished his wife was like Bashir or kind of like something like that. I thought that came up before, but
He wants her in
um,
that tight spandex that Bashir wears when they're playing tennis and stuff, when he's running around and playing racquetball or whatever they do.
yeah, so yeah, they have a bromance, and that's indicative of two guys ribbing each other. That's not really too far fetched for me. I thought it was not that inappropriate, but I mean, I can understand somebody being offended by it, but I don't think it's grossly offensive, when you look at it.
Kind of like when they come out of the shuttlecraft and Bashir goes, smells like a garbage dump. And Chief says, sorry, I couldn't find a nicer place to crash land. Want to try again? These guys
Yeah.
they're always squabbling. Do you think they squabble well, no, I guess Odo and Quark probably squabble the most, but that's already established that they're frenemies. Whereas Bashir and O'Brien are just friends that always fight. You know?
Yeah. They have to be up there for the biggest kind of squabblers in the franchise. Um, but it works well. It works well because you know that they need the best for each other. And obviously Bashir. I'm sorry, O'Brien wouldn't leave without him. because Bashir said, "Go ahead, leave. Don't worry about me. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to do this. You want to go? The door's open. You can leave and take
Yeah.
the runabout and go
And
back."
O'Brien's was like, no, I'm in love with you. I mean, I don't want to get court-martialed.
So yeah, they clearly have their friendship works, and I think it's a real one and a genuine. But it was funny because there were a few moments where Bashir. There was one moment in particularly where he was just a little bit ridiculous. I think he says something to. Oh yeah, he said, "Good job, Chief," or something like that. Bashir says to the Chief, and Chief says, "Coming from you, that means a lot to me." And Bashir's answer was, "I know." It's like, I know. Like who says that?
That's
I
our
know.
man
Carry on.
Bashir.
Yeah. So there's really good interaction there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about these jem'hadar, and I thought the lead jem'hadar in this particular one was really good as an
Hmm.
actor. So I wanted to make sure he gets his shout out for
Yeah,
that.
boy. They do dive pretty deep into the jem'hadar in the next few seasons, and this so far is kind of like the first bit of touching on it. And it's really cool because I mean, like, look at the detail in these guys. Would you say that they're kind of reptilian? Is that what that looks like to you?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the dinosaurs, a dinosaur person. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, the actor, I could look up the actor. I did take a quick glance when I watched this, and I didn't recognize the actor. But his
Yeah.
name is Scott McDonald.
Okay, the name doesn't ring a bell, but I thought his performance was good as a Jem'Hadar, particularly as a c- compassionate Jem'Hadar who's trying to actually change their circumstance and find a way to liberate
Right.
his people.
Here are a few things. He was in The Call of the Wild, a great book by Jack London. I guess it's a movie now. Um, Lots of movies. I haven't heard of most of these. Prototype, Bionic Commando, a lot of voiceover work in video games. He was in ER, Dexter. Yeah, lots of voiceover, which is good because, oh, how did I not know this? He was also in 8 episodes of a TV show called Star Trek Enterprise. Who knew? I didn't realize that. I guess with all that makeup on, he was Commander Dolim. So everybody check that out. Commander Dolim in Star Trek Enterprise. He's also in Stargate, The X-Files, Charmed, tons of stuff. Jack Frost. Anyway.
Yeah, I love Dolomite.
Hey! So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right.
We do actually have to take our quick break. But let's dive into the jem'hadar on the other side of this. There are a couple other things, the Ketracel White, really cool stuff. And we'll talk about very quickly about the cutting room floor trivioids that didn't make it. Boy, some great ones this time. And we'll be right back on the 7th Rule.